We have recently hired some people who were remote and they hated it. Because I'll ask them, what got you to look at Tasty? And they're like, I wanted to be in an office. And, they had the skill set for it. And I'm like, awesome, great. Love to hear that you want to be in an office.
Win all in, play my cards right. Up the ante, won blackjack all night. Roll the dice, let it ride. Water beyond my guns, stay guide.
Entrepreneur Perspectives is produced by Quiet Loud Studios, a production company and content network. Learn more at quietloudstudios.com. So when I pulled up Tastylive and I was like watching it, I'm like, okay, this is like, I don't know what I'm watching, like, because it's like this live show on YouTube. And I find myself spending more time in YouTube than any other medium as far as consuming content.
You're not alone.
Yeah. And who's that? Pat McAfee, right? He's got his show going. And you're just kind of watching it. You're like, okay, and you all are just constantly going. So it's like, well, do I want to sit on CNBC or do I want to get like some real talk with real people, talk about real things? They're like, I'm a part of the conversation. I feel like I'm there. It's like they're laughing, they're being serious, they're educating, they're talking about tools and technology. I'm like, okay, wait a second. That's what I want to be a part of, right? And I'm sure you're seeing a lot of that. So I'm here to say, like, that's amazing. And I see it's like 447,000 subscribers, I think, as I looked this morning. Like, that's real, right? That's real content and real people. It's hitting them hard. So yeah, like, and you're here doing this podcast with me now. So like, let's talk about content then, I guess, a little bit, because I want to better understand what you're thinking, where Tastylive came from, and like, what was that all about?
Sure. So I got to wind the clock back about 20 years. So when we started our last business Tom and I started a company called by the name Thinkorswim. TD Ameritrade bought it, and then Schwab bought TD Ameritrade, so it's now part of Schwab. When you start a company, and it's funny now today, so everybody today, the internet is just part of our world, and you hear names and you're like, oh, that's a cool name. Doesn't, not really sure what it is, but that's a cool name. When we came out with Thinkorswim in 2000, people are like, what is Thinkorswim? Like, what is it? It's not Goldman Sachs. It's not Morgan Stanley. So people were not ripe to just say, oh, let's just go move an account over, to a new brokerage firm. On top of that, we just came through the .com bubble. So for those watching, lived through that, understand that was the precursor to, if you did live through that one, probably 08, 09, but this was after the crash in 87, the mini crash in 89, and then the .com bubble in 2000, late 99, 2000, and then 08, 09. Anyway, I can't tell you how many people said, worst time, sorry, you guys are starting a brokerage firm. It's the worst time you could possibly start a brokerage firm. It actually was an amazing time because there were so many people who were frustrated with their existing firm that they were looking for something new. Now, having said that, it's really hard to go out and market and get somebody to bring their account over. So what we started to do, let me take a step back on that. We connected with somebody who was in the educational space on the trading side. Now, back then, the educational side of trading was very expensive. Like if you went all in, you could easily spend $25,000 to $50,000 on trading courses. I don't even think that exists anymore. I think everybody's been commoditized. I think it's all gone to zero. But on top of what we did with that, we realized the power of education. So we started to give away classes for free. We started in our office, and then we started moving to some bigger venues, and then we started doing some stuff online. And the typical question we would get is, how good could this be if it's free? And our answer was really simple. We'd say, look, we don't want you to waste your time. Time, if you're healthy, is your most valuable asset personally, your most valuable asset, at least I think it is. So I'm not looking for you to waste your time, but give us a shot, because what we are doing is we've created a model that I relate to the razor blade model to Schick or Gillette, which is you give away the razor to sell the blades. So you give it away because then you figure somebody's going to come back, and it's goodwill. And that's really where we have lived, in that lane, the goodwill lane. So Tom, my partner, has been the lead on the educational side. So he's traveling, he's starting his summer fall road trip tomorrow. He's going to Atlanta to do a live trading show it could be our customer. You don't have to be our customer. There will probably be 1,000 people in the room, which is awesome. And he is going to actually trade live during the show. So what we quickly realized was, the power of content, good content. has to be genuine, and then the value that it brings to the customer, because then customers are going to say, look, there's no obligation to trade with us if you're watching our stuff. As you were saying, you were on YouTube. Anybody can go to YouTube and watch it. Go ahead. It's free. We're thrilled to educate you. We just hope that you'll give us a chance and you'll say, let me check out what your brokerage firm does because we believe we're the best at what we do. So that's really how we got here.
So this is a fascinating thing I've been thinking a lot about is you have the transaction world that you could live in as if you're trading, right? So you're literally doing transactions by the second. And then you have this whole other side of it, which is like a faith-based, or not faith as in religion, but faith as, I believe this is going to work out. We're going to post content. We're going to do live. We're going to educate. And with that, oh, we think you might like and you might want to work with us. Those are different ends of the spectrum, if you know what I'm saying. And that's a very hard place to live in unless you could just say, well, I guess because I'm doing it over here, I can deal with the faith over here. Do you see what I'm getting at though? Like how do you as a leader, as a founder, live in that space? And how do you say, yeah, let's do some content because this might work out for us when you know like it might not too?
So there's absolutely no guarantee that when you're doing something with any goodwill model, ours happens to be content, but with any goodwill model, there's clearly no guarantee that it's going to attract customers and then you get the transactional revenue, which is what you were referring to. It has worked for us. And again, shouts out to everybody on the network. I do a little piece. I'm on air. It's called Live for the Trade Desk. It's about 20 to 30 minutes each morning. That's just a small piece, but there's a full team on the production side. There's a team on the research side. I mean, it's a huge group that makes the show go on. And when you hear people on air, not just here, I'm saying like if you're watching any on air, typically the town will say, shouts out to my team. I ride Peloton. And even the Peloton instructors will say, shouts out to my production team because it takes so many people to put this on. So I don't think most people realize if you're going to put on great content, which Tastylive is great content, the amount of effort that goes into it. Now, having said that, we've become known in the industry, but this is what we do. We've become known that this is the model. And it's funny because over the years, there have been other firms who have tried, but they have not been able to figure out exactly what type of content to put out there that attracts the customers. Our team has always seemed to be able to come up with great ideas for the next show. And what I love about Tastylive is that it's not just for beginners, it's not just intermediate, it's not just advanced, it's a wide range. So you can pick and choose what you want to do. And when I say advanced, there's stuff on here that I will watch. There's one particular contributor, his name's Jacob, and I mean, a math genius for sure. And the stuff that he puts up there, I'll watch some of the shows and I'll walk into the studio, I'll look at Tom and Tony, like, did you guys have any idea? And they'll usually say, we have absolutely no idea, but it's cool watching him do this. Tom, one of the things he loves to say is that the industry tends to dumb down and try to treat people as if they don't know, they're not capable of learning. And actually, I agree with it to some extent because a lot of the firms will say, listen, just give us your money, let us manage it for you. You're not smart enough to do it. One of the things that our network does is really push people to say, you've got to put effort in. You've got to put time. You've got to study. This is not something that you're going to pick up in 5 minutes. But if you're willing to put the effort in, the rewards from our perspective, unbelievable.
Yeah. How would you look at it from individual advisor, small group, right? Something like that. And maybe they're not going to have a live channel, let's say, but they're going to do something along these lines, a podcast. Maybe they go on Instagram and they post pictures, whatever. Like you see the value there because you're talking about a production company that you all have built together. And I agree with that because I could say, hey, shout out to Julian, shout out to Scott, shout out to Caroline. This is our team, right? These are the people. And just like you said it, this stuff doesn't happen without them. But at the same time, you could hire a company, right? You could outsource it and we work with companies. Would you look at an advisor or someone in the financial space in whatever space that would be to say, the content still works. Like even if you're not going to have 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, you could have 5 subscribers. It could be the people on your team that listen to this thing. Like where does your head go with that? Because you're obviously like almost like a mentor in a way for entrepreneurs and leaders and founders. Like where does your head go with that thought process regarding content?
So I have to qualify this by saying that if you are licensed, if you are registered with FINRA, so you have your license, so it's Series 7, for example. I mean, I have 6, 7 different licenses.
You have too many. Yeah.
Like, so you have to be very careful if you're going and putting out recorded content. Live content is different, but recorded content, you have to be very careful because you can't go out and just make a categorical statement to say, this is a great trade for everybody. This is a great investment for everybody. You have to understand what people's tolerance is, what their understanding of the markets is, their disposable income, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if somebody was an advisor, you're talking about an RIA, as I'm assuming, registered investment advisor, somebody who's doing trade, I want to make sure I'm on the right path.
It is. And I would throw this in there too. They don't have to talk about what you're talking about, right? They don't have to talk about like what the markets are doing right now. They could talk about the type of people they work with, what their city's up to, what the school districts are like, what's going on in the real estate. You know what I'm saying?
So I just interviewed somebody this morning, and I still do interview everybody that's in my world. I mean, I don't start it off, but if they make it so it goes through a process and I'm the final person to interview. So if it's anything customer facing, they have to come through me. So customer facing being not on the Tastylive side, not on the production side, but if it's customer support, if it's risk margins, if it's accounts, if it's banking, I interview everybody as the final step. And I interviewed somebody today, and this exact topic came up. And he asked me a question because he said in the interview that he had with the people before me, he asked a question, like he's from Houston. And he said, if I'm helping somebody on a trade related question and I give them the answer and I'm looking at their account and I see that they're from Houston, could I just mention the Astros and just ask them about baseball? He said, because I have a feeling, and I'm not going to name names of other firms, but some of the bigger firms, they would frown upon that. Stay the course, talk about trading, hang up, move on. And I didn't even hesitate. I said, I'd be disappointed if you didn't do that. And he looked at me and he's like, oh, that's awesome. And I said, the way that we do this is we want everybody who's involved with us, Tastylive, Tastytrade, so the network, or on the brokerage side, we want that person to feel as if they're part of the family. And as opposed to a lot of the other firms treat you as if you're a number. Sometimes they have more numbers, sometimes they have less numbers. They don't really care. Like if we lose a customer, it hurts me. It bothers me. I'm like, what did we do wrong? Why did this person not want to keep their account here? We lose customers. I mean, that we're obviously a big positive coming in, but we do lose customers to other firms. There's a variety of reasons, but I do take it as what could we have done better? So for me, customer service, and that's part of that interaction where you make somebody feel, and it has to be genuine. It can't be like, oh, you're from Houston. I don't know one thing about Houston or baseball, but just tell me something about it. That's not going to be sincere. If it comes off as being a real response, like you truly care, like you're really listening to the person, it's amazing what that does for the customer and what it does for the business, because now you have a person who hopefully will go out and tell friends and family, say, look, I had this amazing experience at Tastytrade. You should go check it out. It's a great brokerage firm, and they really do care.
Yeah. Well, it's just our conversation here. I don't know where we started recording, let's say, but we came on here. It's like you spent time in Arizona. My son's at school in Arizona. We started talking about Arizona State football. It was all genuine, right? Immediately, though, it as just talking with humans that it's just better that way. All of a sudden, I don't know if it's a grounding experience for everybody involved to say, like, well, I've always thought sports bring people together, right? There's this whole thing about it doesn't matter. Like, you could be a Michigan fan, I could be an Ohio State fan. We can still talk about those, and that's not the case, right? But those things do matter, and that is right. And it doesn't feel, going back to that word before, it doesn't feel transactional. Like, I need to get something from you, and I need to get it in as little time as possible to get the most amount of ROI I can get for myself and my firm, right? That's where you lose people.
And what I can't stand is multiple no's to get to a yes. I'm not going to say the brand, but my daughter just had a situation at a store where she lives in New York. She's back in Chicago, and she bought some makeup at a store. And she's a very good customer of the store. And she realized when she got home, she bought the wrong color palette. So she just figured she'd wait till she came home. It's a national chain. She just returned it here. Well, she has a rewards program and she punches in her phone number, but apparently the salesperson didn't do whatever they had to do to complete the transaction. So they charged her, but they didn't push through the receipt. So she didn't get an email receipt and it didn't show up in her account. I mean, she has a credit card receipt and she shows them. So she's talking to the salesperson. She's like, I can't do anything. I have to get the manager. She said the manager came over and was one of the rudest people that she's ever talked to. Basically said, screw you. You have no proof and we don't know that you bought this here. And she's like, but I'm a really good customer and I'm telling you, and here's the receipt. She's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything, but gave her a number for corporate, gets to somebody at corporate who was absolutely mortified with the response. The person said, keep it, give it away to somebody. I'm crediting you to go buy what you want to buy. And I said to her, look at what that could have done. Had she said no, my guess is you're never shopping there again. I'm never shopping there. The rest of my family's not going to shop there. And you're going to tell people about it. Versus she did the correct thing. Again, it was an honest mistake on the customer service side in New York. I'm assuming it was. Just fix the problem. And I think, unfortunately, for most customer service businesses, they're in a box and they say, well, here's my book, here's my box. I can't do anything outside of this. My answer is, when I'm talking to somebody, there is always a solution if you're willing to take the time and effort to find what that solution is. There's always a solution.
Yeah, totally agree. We run a life insurance brokerage group. So we work with wealth managers, advisors, banks, what have you. And so I've been in the insurance business as long, and I'm not in it on a daily basis anymore. I'm more overseeing it. It's only gotten progressively worse, right? With there's always a solution. It's like the insurance companies live in a world we're going to see what we can do to make sure does not go through. And it's a really troubling experience for everyone involved. If you're the advisor, why would I ever want to sell this again? I don't want to deal with these insurance companies. They're making it impossible. And then you get the medical records and all that, and it goes on and on and on. And you're dealing with people that and it's not everybody, right? So generally speaking, but it's a very difficult thing to live in. So we're dealing with, I don't know, it's just a very tough experience. And when you talk to the salespeople in it that are living it on a day-to-day basis, they're so beyond frustrated that they're like, I'm just going to go do something else. And I don't know what that is, and then we're dealing with a lot of emotions, right? Every day, and you are too. So I can kind of lead this into the financial services side, with the stocks, right? The stocks are going up and down. There's an election that happens. People get emotional, forget the stock market. They're just emotional about who's going to be president. And all of a sudden, that's going to sway decisions. And they're going to call their broker up and they're going to say, I want to, basic example, I want to trade out of Tesla. I don't like Elon Musk. Okay. So now you're dealing with these individuals. So it's you might be calm, but there also could be an advisor out there that's not calm. Go ahead. You're thinking something.
You are spot on with this. And I've had this conversation with my team many times, because when Trump announced the tariffs, in early April, basically through now, it's dialed down a little bit, but we've had crazy market moves. And I've been doing this since 86. And without a doubt, the moves that we had in April were the craziest that I've ever seen. And I kept having to tell my team, look, as busy as we are and as crazy as you have been, you have to remember the people on the other end are going through it too, and probably in a worse way. And it's hard when you're trying to help somebody and it feels like everything's going against them. And, they might be in a margin call. They might just be losing money, not minimizing losing money, but it might not be in a call, but still they're just upset about losing money. And they're looking for some comfort and some guidance. And it's really important to remember that when you're dealing with somebody in the service business. And unfortunately, insurance, I don't think if you were going to go do a market survey, they would rank, high on the list. And I'm going to ask you a question. If I said to you, a company that you deal with, what is the worst customer service experience categorically that you've had? Does something jump to mind?
Yeah, there's a lot jumps to mind. Well, let me think. They just refuse to do something, right? They refuse to move the process along. And I guess it's more thematic, where there's no decision makers to move the process along, if that makes sense. So you're dealing with someone who's going to answer the phone and they can't make a decision. And there's no one there that can make the decision. And that alone, I think, becomes the theme of a lot of frustration. And that's where I think AI can come in to say, well, if I'm talking to someone and they can't answer the question and they don't have access and they don't have the ability to make a decision and they don't have knowledge of it, right? Product knowledge is a massive issue. They're coming up with new products, but no one can explain it. You need a degree in whatever this is that they're doing to come up with this, understanding an index UL, a variable universal life UL, whole life policy at Mass Mutual. They say it's really easy to understand. When you dive into those things, they're not. And so no one has a decision or the ability to make a lot of decisions. And it used to be, for a little bit, there was always someone there to say, hey, what are we trying to do here? And there would be a leader at the top that can make the decision. And then that was great. So then we can move forward with something. Now we're living in a place where we're calling up, or I'm not calling up, but someone's calling up on the team and wasting, let's just say they just waste time. So to even maybe get more specific, you're on hold for 45 minutes to talk to someone at a John Hancock or Bright House Financial or something like that. So I have someone on our team that's wasting hours and hours and hours just trying to get someone on the phone, right? That's a real problem.
Yeah. And it's frustrating. I just had it with American Airlines, I had a problem. I think six phone calls. Nobody could answer the question. By the time I got to the sixth person, I was so appreciative. I said, thank you very much. You're the first person who has been able to explain this to me in a way that made any sense. Everybody was just like, well, that's just what it is. And I'm like, but that's what it is not an answer. And that to me, that's fuel for my fire when somebody will say, well, that's just the way the industry is, or that's just the way that it is. I'm like, well, then change the industry. Change that, because if nobody wanted to take risk, if everybody just said, well, that's the way it is, there would be no progress, right? That's how we progress, is that somebody takes risks and says, well, that's the way it's currently done. I'm going to come up with a better way to do it. And unfortunately, insurance is a tough one because it's really, really hard. And I'm not deeply involved with it, but I've been involved enough to know it's just a couple little different things here and there that could totally change, the package that you're purchasing.
Yes. These companies that we're talking about are huge, massive companies. And by and large, I mean, they're doing some good things. So it's not like every step of the way they're terrible. Well, here's the thing, like, you're in the business of paying death benefit, right? Of paying claims. So when that becomes a frustrating problem, as you got me thinking, like, that becomes the worst thing. Like, if you're in the business of this and I can't get that to get done, and then you could have pictured the individual or the family on the other end of it, and they've no experience doing this besides the fact that their loved one bought a life insurance policy to a very basic level. And it takes you 2-3 weeks, a month, whatever, to get through that process. That's really challenging. So that's probably the biggest issue that I would have. And then these companies are so big. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm laughing because I personally had an experience. We had a big family trip planned to Africa 12 years ago. And unfortunately, literally a few weeks before we were leaving, I got pneumonia. And it was miserable. I mean, I had pneumonia 3 times, and I'm happy that it happened in Chicago versus in Africa, because I probably wouldn't be here. But the travel agent said, you need to buy travel insurance because it's such a long trip and it's expensive. And I said, you got to be an idiot to buy travel insurance. Okay. I'll self-insure it. I said, we're fine. I'm not doing it. And then she hit me with well, you have to think about what if one of your parents gets sick and you need to come home. I'm like, damn. Okay. She got me on that one. That one I can't control. So I partially insured. I picked a number in my head. I said, okay, partially insured. So go on the insurance company's website, buy the insurance. Literally, it took 5 minutes. I was done. About a week or two later, I get sick. So you have to cancel the trip. And long and the short of it is, I file the claim. They say, we need your medical records. I send in everything. They said, no problem, we're on it. A couple weeks later, nothing. We're on it. I keep calling back. I'm like, just checking. Again, nobody's giving me an answer saying, oh yeah, well, they're just still being processed. They said, no, they're not being processed. I said, because I've been told this. So finally I get to a manager and the woman says, I see the issue. I said, great. That's all I'm looking for. What's the issue? And she said, due to the size of the claim, the president of the company has to sign off on the checks. I took a deep breath and I said, okay, I find that hard to believe. It's not that big of a claim, but okay, that's fine. Why didn't somebody else tell me that? And could you tell me how long it's going to take? She's like, well, I'm not really sure. And I said, you know what's funny? And she's like, no, what's funny? I said, the president didn't have to sign off on accepting my premium. You took that in 30 seconds. I said, but now you're telling me that I need to wait. She said, can I call you tomorrow? I said, you call me anytime you want. And then she called me. She said, the checks are in the mail. So again, they're happy to take the money, but when you try to then go make a claim, well, let's push back a little bit. Let's see what we can get away with.
Yeah. It's so frustrating because what I see is you're thinking fast, right? Thinkorswim, right? You're going through this whole process and you can come up with that line. A lot of people cannot do that. And that's what hurts, is that when you have someone else out there and they never would have gotten to that point and they were to convince them and they would have had to wait another few weeks, or maybe they would have denied it. I don't know. And that's really bad for like everything. Because then, like, let's say they lose that money. Now they're more desperate. Now this happens. Like, there's this trickle down effect that's going to cause so much angst on whatever thing that they're dealing with. It might be an airline seat, right? It might be whatever. And it's just like my wife, we tried to get on a plane. We had all our boarding passes. We walk on the plane. My kids are on it. We're the last two. We're getting on. They're already up there. And she looks at my wife. She's like, you're not on this flight. We sold your ticket.
No.
Then like we're just, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, she's on this plane. And she's like, well, and then they start getting angry. And then, like, we're just trying to have a conversation. And there's no way to have this conversation. This is American Airlines gate attendant. And I've since learned that the gate attendants and the flight attendants like do not get along at all. They actually hate them because they're paid a bonus based on getting that flight off in time. And if you don't do it, and if you don't get out of the way and we're boarding early, like that's their problem and they get whatever. I mean, what people have to go through for that. So if you're dealing with it that's an issue, right? In the moment, it's a big issue, but in the big scheme of things, it's not. When you're dealing life and death and travel insurance, so that's a bigger deal. And then you have people who cannot fight for themselves. And that is what's frustrating. That's why agents, brokers, whatever, these people matter, someone like yourself. But like if everyone's being taken advantage of because these companies are, and I don't know about that company specifically, but overall, the airlines, American Airlines, John Hancock, what have you, Aflac, what these are massive companies. They don't give a shit. And like you said, if we were going to fix a problem, it's not going to be those companies that fix it. It's going to be a Tastytrade that fix it. It's going to be something that I build that could, and it might be on a very small scale, but that one little problem is what an entrepreneur, what a founder does, is to go out and say, hey, I want to go work on that problem.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking advantage of a system that's probably old and stale and saying, look, I can do better. And I love, I can do better because, I talk to a lot of younger kids. My youngest just graduated college. So, starting off in the workplace, they ask me a lot of questions. And, one of the comments that I make to them is take a lot of risk at your age. And again, risk is different for each person. We all have a different tolerance for risk. But if you're in your early 20s, take a lot of risk. And if you have an idea, try to push it. Try to come up with the idea and say, okay, this could actually work. Here's why it can work. Because there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 big companies. They don't really care. I think I can come in. Maybe just they're not going to even notice me because I'm going to be flying under their radar. But it's amazing how many companies start off flying under a radar that all of a sudden explode and say, wow, okay, there is a better way to do this. And I love that when I see it.
Yeah. All right, you're talking about college now. We're talking about education. How do you even get to think critically and think fast and all this kind of stuff? Like you sent your kid to college, things are changing really fast. While your kid's in college, AI becomes like a real thing. Like where's your head at as it comes to college right now?
So interesting. If you would have asked me about my kids, I would have said 100% all of them were going to go to college and graduate from college. My oldest is an artist and went to grade school in Brooklyn for fine art and wasn't for him and wound up staying in Brooklyn, still doing art, on his own, but wound up not going to school. And it's funny because he's now a poker player. And he said every day for him, he feels that he gets to go to school because he's always learning. My middle is a mechanical engineer, and you're not doing that unless you go to school. And my youngest, she just graduated with a degree in creative nonfiction and human rights, and she wants to be a writer. So 3 creative people that for 2 of them, college was great and I think critical, but for my oldest, not necessary. I think what we are going to see is as technology progresses and as schools become more and more expensive, which apparently they're going to, you're going to see more people choosing not to go to school. There's going to be other ways. When I say go to school, go to a formal 4-year institution. There are many other ways to get an education. So you and I were talking earlier about how much consumption, you have from YouTube. That's where you take in a lot of your stuff. YouTube's amazing. I mean, when you want to go figure out how to do something, go to YouTube, get a quick video. My wife, her car, the key fob for her car, the battery needs to be changed. I'm like, well, just go to YouTube, figure out how to do it. So there's always ways that you can go learn. And it's nice that these resources are out there and they're free. So will a 4-year experience continue on in 20, 30, 40, 50 years? 100%. Is it going to look differently? Absolutely. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but if they don't bring the cost down, if they don't bring the cost down, they're going to be out of the game because there will be other ways for high school graduates to say, I'm going to go get a degree. I'm just going to go get a degree in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, you can learn nonstop. I mean, you could always have learned, right? People were doing this before. This is not new that you can go like books on tape or whatever, right? You got Audible, you got books, you got free books, you got a library. right? Like you want to learn about finance, you could just literally binge watch Tastylive all day long. Then you can go read books by Warren Buffett, and you could read The Intelligent Investor. And then you could go shadow an advisor, be like, hey, can I bring you coffee every day and just sit in here while you're talking to clients? I just want to learn, right? Like there's ways to do this. And nowadays, when you have AI and AI tutors, like, well, I don't understand this. And Scott was saying something about options today, and I didn't really understand what he meant. Can you explain this to me? And like ask more questions. And now the AI understands who you are, and they say, oh, you're this type of learner and you're a visual learner. Let me send you some pictures of what I'm talking about. Or you like sports, so let me compare the two between like the NBA finals versus like what this looks like for the so it's endless with it. And I don't know, like we're just talking about large companies. Well, that's what schools are. I mean, we've talked about Arizona State, we've mentioned Michigan, Ohio State, right? These are massive institutions. They charge a lot of money to go to college there. And then you wonder, they're so big, so it's hard to change. Are they going to be able to adapt to the age of AI? And they're in this, not all of them, they're freaking out because if kids are cheating. And that's a problem, right? Because kids are taking advantage of it. But if they could take advantage of it in the positive way, but yeah, you're thinking something right here.
So I was just saying to my wife, I'm really happy that our youngest just graduated college, because we were just talking about, social media and the issues that it's creating. My wife just got her master's in clinical mental health, and that was her capstone was exactly on that topic. Younger kids and the negative impact of these things. It's just you're always on your phone. What are the people saying? And at that age, well, even as we get older, rarely does somebody post something bad. It's always, I got a new job, I got a raise, I got a trip, I got a present, I got a car, I got a, whatever. So it's to me, so much is fake. I'm not on social media, never have been interested in it. It doesn't mean anything to me. AI is here to stay. AI is not going away. So I'm going to say a couple things about it. I don't think that there's a lot of fear about it. Am I going to lose my job? There will be certain jobs, there will be certain roles for sure. There will be built-in obsolescence. They will become obsolete because AI is going to come in and say, we're going to go do that job for you. We don't need you. But hopefully what that means is that it's going to give that person the opportunity. The company's going to need people to do other things. Hopefully within that company, you're going to have the opportunity to learn a new skill, and you're going to go do something else within that business, or you're going to go look elsewhere. And I know it's scary when you see that, but there are people, that I've read that said basically AI is going to run the world. We're not going to need people doing anything anymore. I'm calling massive BS on that. That's not going to happen. On the educational side, I mean, this might sound funny, but if somebody's cheating, they're only hurting themselves. So could somebody do it and get an A in the class? Yeah, you could, and you're going to get away with it. But we were just talking about the expense, the cost to go to a 4-year institution. By the time you pay for, tuition, room and board, travel, back and forth, books, everything else, it's wrapped around $250,000 plus or minus for 4 years. So if you're going to go spend that kind of money and you're going to cheat, at the end of the day, who are you really hurting? Now, I think as a professor, it's got to be really difficult because you're going to say, look, I have to be careful that I'm not giving A's and A pluses to kids who are cheating, and the kids who are really doing the work now, their work isn't quite as good. So they're getting a B or a B plus or C, whatever it is. I don't know how you navigate that. And hopefully the schools will figure it out. But the thought of saying we're not going to allow AI, it's ridiculous because AI is here. I mean, we have AI on our phone. You have AI on your computer. You have AI everywhere you go. You have access to AI everywhere. So for these institutions, sure, there's a lot of conversations happening right now. What do we do to control this? Now, easily, if you think somebody cheated, you just pull them aside and say, ask them something about the paper.
Yeah.
Ask them something about the test and go ahead. I'm giving you a verbal. And then you're going to know right away when the kid says, you know what, I got to go to the bathroom and I don't know. Well, you're going to know right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the message to me is a cultural one. And maybe I'm being naive to say this, that there aren't going to be people that cheat. There are always going to be people that are going to cheat. There's always people looking to take the easier path. But if somebody is going to a 4-year institution, I'm assuming they're doing it to try to better themselves. How are you going to better yourself if you're just cheating? You're not going to go anywhere. And by the time you're done in 4 years, you're going to go, great, I just wasted $250,000 plus or minus, and I have nothing to show for it. And now I can't get a job because I go into an interview and they ask me these questions and I have no idea what the answers are because I actually didn't do any of the work.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I don't know the direction it goes with it because you have to be using it, right? You talk to enough people, like it's not an option anymore. We can clip a lot of this episode using AI tools. So it's not just having a conversation and writing about this. How did World War II start? Right? It can do those things, but it can do so much else. It's going to be running in the background, and just like you're going to show up one day, and it's just your assistant is your AI, right? The AI agents are doing everything. They're providing you're a stockbroker, right? Like if you're trading, if you're looking for new clients, here's your call list for the day, right?
So I have to ask you, being out in Tempe, have you taken a Waymo yet? The self-driving cars.
The first time I saw a Waymo, I had my kid in the back seat, and I sort of ran a red light. I can't remember what it was. Like I did something I wasn't supposed to do, but it wasn't that bad. But it was enough to I felt bad. So I waved to the car. I'm like, I'm really sorry. My son's in the back seat. He's like, Dad, no one's driving that car. I was like, no shit. And that was the Waymo. This is I guess 2 years ago. It was the first time I had seen it. I was like, this is cool. So we go back out there. My daughter, my youngest, always wants to ride it because she's super into that tech. And so she gets in there. But yeah, the Waymo.
And it's amazing. I did it once. And my middle, who's a mechanical engineer, he came out to visit. He's like, we have to take a Waymo. I said, done. Let's go do it. So he and his girlfriend and I did it with another friend, and my wife and my son, they drove. They followed us. And the first 5-10 seconds in the car, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This is really freaky. There's literally nobody sitting in the seat. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, this is amazing. And by the time I got out of the car, I said, I wish every rideshare was an autonomous, vehicle. And when they become available for personal consumption, I'm not saying to ride, but to go buy and you can have one. My wife will be at the front of the line. She hates driving. Can you imagine you have a chauffeur? You get in this car and it's safer. They've done tests because listen, a Waymo, artificial intelligence, is not going to get distracted with a text or a phone call, or they drop their phone, whatever, and they're not paying attention. So that's a perfect example to me. And again, if you are a gig worker and you are a rideshare driver, you probably don't want to hear this because chances are, it's going to be a long way away before we have enough of those cars to replace everybody, but it's coming. But in my mind, that's progress. And it's going to be so much more efficient on the roads. It's going to reduce traffic because you don't have people who are texting and they cause 10 cars not to go through the light because they weren't paying attention. Every car will be right up to, within 5 feet of the next car because they don't have to worry about it because technology is going to say we're good.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a great use case right now for technology and its advancements and, and AI. So
absolutely. People freak out. You hear about one accident, right? You hear about one thing where it gets stuck or whatever. And I'm like, have you looked on the road? Have you just driven anywhere? Have you watched people going through red lights? Like, yes, it's not perfect. There's no technology. Just like today, we're on Riverside right now. It wasn't working here. I don't know what to tell you, right? It is what it is. So technology is not going to work. I think it was a mother-in-law or someone. She was like, to move money. And it was like, oh, I got to get a code and I got to do this. Like, oh my God, this is such a pain. And I'm like, think about what it would have not used to. People still do it. Like you'd have to write a check. You have to go to the mail. You have to stick it in the mail, send it to me. I got to get it, open it up, sign it, take it to my bank. Now it's instantaneous. I get it. There's bad actors out there and there's people stealing money and it's really bad. That authentication that you're having to do is actually protecting you. I know it's a pain, but trust me, this is a lot easier than what we used to do. But yeah, people want perfection with these things. And I'm like, it's better than what we've got now because driving around Charlotte, North Carolina, it's just anarchy. There's no rules. They're just running lights. There's no cops anywhere stopping anybody. And I hate it. I got kids driving. I can't stand it.
So on that topic, because I've only been to the Charlotte airport. I've never driven through Charlotte because in Chicago, I say the exact same thing. In my mind, it all changed during COVID. Did you find that the whole driving, just the risk, the danger, people not paying attention, did you find that during COVID is really what?
Yes, people don't give a shit. I thought we were going to come out of COVID and people were going to be like, oh man, this is like we're back and we're going to be nicer. I don't know. The election and politics and people are just in a bad mood. It's chaos. People don't care. They'll cut you off. They'll look at you. If you're walking across the street, they look at you like, why would you do that? I'm like, wow, shouldn't it be pedestrian first? Like that helps the city out. And they're like, no, fuck that. I'm running you over.
Right.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is. It's like we talked about content a lot and content can trigger people. And hopefully this conversation doesn't do that. We're just trying to talk through a bunch of different things and you live in that space. And, we talked about it before. If someone gets elected, whether it doesn't matter what side you're on, someone's going to be upset and then they call up and now you're dealing with this emotion every day. And that like, even hearing your story before about you not like going through the insurance policy to get your trip canceled and dealing with like, as an individual listening to that, it's like watching a movie they talk about like if you watch a horror movie, if you're like a suspenseful movie, like your body doesn't know, your brain doesn't know the difference. Maybe there's levels of it that it might be happening to you. And that's why people get nervous. Their blood pressure spikes, or their heartbeat raises, right? All that kind of stuff. So as I hear your story and I'm thinking like, man, I'm kind of angry now. Like I'm tensing up a little bit, like, cause that's freaking annoying. I don't know. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it's just like, there's so much content coming at us on a daily basis, and you hold up that phone that I don't know.
It's insane. And part of when I was talking about my wife, and this was her capstone, when we're done with this, go look at your phone and go look at the average amount of screen time, because it'll tell you how much you're realize.
Oh yeah.
It's scary. How much, and when you say that to people, they're like, there's no way that I'm on my phone for, 4 hours a day or whatever it is.
I think it's more. Yeah.
It is. If you take a high school boy, I don't remember boys or girls. One of them was a little bit higher. I want to say one was 6 and one was 7, or one was 7 and one was 8 hours a day. So you have school, you have sleep, and you have meals, and you have something else, and you're going, so how are you on your phone? And that's actually one that I've seen some school districts coming out and saying, no smartphones. You can have a flip phone, but no smartphones, in school during the day. And I think it's great. I really do. And I know a lot of kids will be like, oh, I want to be on my phone. It's terrible. Why is it my grade that this is happening to? It's not healthy from a mental health standpoint, for sure.
Yeah. I was just talking to my daughter about it because her school did it in middle school, and then she's going into a high school and they're doing away with it. Some schools I know they actually put in a pouch, no phones. So they didn't do phones in middle school. High school, you were allowed to do it, but starting next year, from what I understand, they're not going to do it. That has a lot to do with the Jonathan Haidt. Not the American Mind was the first one, and then the Anxious Generation book that came out, which was like last summer. That book changed everything. So I think all these schools got their hand on it. So if you haven't read it or seen it, definitely take a look at it, because it's like really deep in research on it. And it talks about how they need to not be on their phone. And my daughter was even saying how she wants to have her phone, but she also understands like when we have break or lunch, she'll look around and everyone's on their phone, and that kind of gets boring. So if you're like, hey, like we're together now, let's just hang out, instead of someone scrolling through TikTok endlessly. And, there's also a thing to be said of like, what are you doing on your phone? Because it is amazing. Like we talked about before, your phone you could learn as much as you want to learn on your phone, or you could waste as much time as you want to waste. And I find like, okay, you could have background noise going. So that's using your phone. You could have music on your phone. You could be listening to an audiobook on your phone. You could be reading a book. You could be texting a friend. Like the time adds up. You could be driving your car because your Tesla, the key is the phone, right? So you're going to be on your phone a lot more. I think the hours will continue to go up because it opens your garage door. It opens your front door. It's like what you use your wallet. Like, so it's endless. So at some point it's like, it's just, I don't know how you would even not use it. It's just then what do you choose to do with your phone? It's like when you go to bed, they talk about like, if you go to bed with your phone, it's what are you consuming? The light, maybe a little bit, but I've heard mixed responses on that. It's more about what are you taking in at that point? Like if you're watching something that's triggering you and getting you upset, that's going to cause bad sleep more so than if you were just like read a relaxing book, let's say.
And for me, it's not even just that you're on your phone. The fact your phone's there is telling your brain, if I need it, I can grab it. And I won't take my phone into the bedroom. I leave it in the closet. I'm like, I don't care. They can wait. My wife, because we have 3 kids, my wife's like, I need to know that they can get to me. So she puts her phone on sleep. Other than our 3 kids, they can get through. And her mom, if there's an emergency, other than that, she doesn't look at it. I have said for years, and I've been wrong so far, but I still believe it's going to happen, that I've thought there would be a revolt against social media, because I think people are going to get to the point where they're like, it's just, they realize that from a mental health standpoint, it's really debilitating. Not controlled, but the problem is most people can't control. And the algorithms are so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the algorithms are so good, and they just get you going down rabbit holes. And it's like, I'll talk to people. Oh, I went on, TikTok for 15 minutes, and the next thing I knew it was 2 hours later.
Yeah. I think a good test, like if a parent really wanted to know, I said, now put yourself inside of the mind of a 12-year-old kid and just pretend and get on TikTok or Instagram and just start, and what they listen to a little bit, or find out what they like or people that they're watching, and just start going onto TikTok and watching videos that they would watch, and then just watch it, and then go and then like and scroll up. You'll see what they start putting in their feed, and then it'll scare the shit out of you, because you don't know it because the feed will change within a few minutes on TikTok specifically. it's amazing, right? If you go down a path of like really good content, or you're into musicals, or you want to learn more about Tom Petty or what, like you can go down, and that's interesting stuff. You still get addicted to it. So there's still a problem there, but it can go down these paths. And then you start living these echo chambers. And we talk about, like we said before, politics or something. Then you go down this path of like, man, you're triggered, and it could be endless. And then it shows up in all of your feeds. And then it's the people you hang out with. And then I don't know what happens from there. It's not good.
Not good. Yeah.
No. Okay. So you have Tastylive, almost 500,000 followers on YouTube. How, as a company, do you then balance that? Because obviously that's a huge part of the business. Like, you want more subscribers on YouTube. Like, that's good for business. It's like more money and all that kind of stuff. How do you balance all that with what we just talked about?
Not my world. I don't run that world. And when you're asking how do we balance it, meaning trying not to target, I mean, the content that we put out, in my mind, is not trying to do that to people. Stuff that we're putting out is, I put it on the podcast, tends to be more in that lane, where we're trying to educate people. We're trying to give people information if they are looking for the information. We're not targeting people and saying, oh, you got to come make this trade, and trying to get people to come put a trade on. That's not what we do. For me, information is so critical. And the upside to the phone and the computer and iPad and everything else is how quickly, information can move. That's awesome. I mean, it used to take a bit older than you, but you had a morning newspaper and an evening newspaper. And then you had the evening news. Now you go on your phone at any time of the day and you're getting live feeds from anywhere around the world. And you're hearing what's going on. So from an engagement standpoint, that I think is really good and can be healthy. As to your point, you can go and try to learn on your phone, or you can go do things that are just taking you down a rabbit hole that you find out are wasting your time. So from my perspective, we just try to push out great content, and hopefully people like it, and we get feedback, and we get an idea as to what's working and what's not working. But for us, it's just trying to push out the best content that we can push out, and hopefully it creates a level of engagement that, again, it's the model, it's the goodwill model, where we are giving away all the content in hopes that somebody will say, you know what, I'm going to go make a trade. I might as well check out Tastytrade and see what Tastytrade looks like, because their content's great. And I'm saying personally, I'm biased, but I think we have the best platform. So put them both together and make it a one-stop shop.
Yeah, that makes sense. When we talk about engagement too, I think about like engagement of being together or being apart. And college is a way to be together. But I remember even visiting college, and they were having a hard time getting the kids post-COVID out of the dorms. They would stay in the dorms. They would take online classes. They wouldn't get out there. And then you had this whole work from home thing, right? And now I know a lot of companies are bringing people back. Like, what does your company look like from a work from home, return to office type of mindset and engagement of being around people and learning?
We're back about a year ago. We went back to 3 days a week in office. For me, I think that's good. 4 is our preference. There are some people here are 5. I think that there's a tremendous value to balance of hybrid and in person. I know some companies are saying we're going 5 days. I don't see us going back to 5 days in office. So for me, I knew we had to get back in the office. It was towards the end of COVID, and we had hired a bunch of new people on the desk, and a customer had sent me an email saying, I talked to this person and they told me this, but I don't think this is correct. Can you just confirm? And they weren't correct. And I reached out to the person and I said, could you just tell me why you said that? And their answer was, well, that's what we did at my last firm. I said, okay, fair enough. We don't do it that way here. And this is how we do it. And I remember looking at my wife, said, I've got to get back to the office, because one thing for sure you cannot learn remotely is culture. And another thing that you can't do is you don't get the water cooler talk. So we have a very open floor plan. So we have 2 people that have private offices, but all support's just totally open. So you're always hearing conversations. You're engaged in a conversation, and you could pick something up. You're going, oh, I didn't know that. That's great. Great piece of information. If you're sitting at your kitchen table or your dining room table in your home by yourself, you don't get that. So it was 2 things for me: culture, and then also just the involvement with other team members, where you're just going to learn from what they're doing, from what they've learned, which I think is great.
Yeah. And I think for younger people, like you have kids coming out of college or around that age, that I've heard of kids coming out of college and then they go immediately to work from home 4 or 5 days a week. That I don't understand.
Epic fail. And I've had people say it to me. I'm like, please don't do that. If you have the option to go to an office, go to an office. We have recently hired some people who were remote and they hated it. Because I'll ask them, what got you to look at Tasty? And they're like, I wanted to be in an office. And, they had the skill set for it. And I'm like, awesome, great. Love to hear that you want to be in an office. My oldest, we'll go out for a walk and we'll go by a Starbucks. He's like, I'm going to get something. Do you want anything? I'm like, no, thanks. I'll just wait here. And he'll pull his phone out. I'm like, what are you doing? I said, we're a block away. Why don't you just walk in? And he looks at me. He's like, why would I ever want to talk to somebody if I could just do it on my phone? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
that's great.
Like the art of conversation. So as your kids, that sounds like a little younger than mine, as they get into the dating world and they start going out, I'm like, first of all, I don't even know if dating is a thing anymore. I think they go out as a group. But then, like, do they just sit there and text with each other? Like, how about the art of just having, like, hey, let's just sit and talk?
Yeah. To your son's credit, I will say this: Starbucks, and I've heard this, that they've purposely gone slower in lines because they want you to use the app. So when you walk in and you've ordered on the app, your drink's waiting for you. So that's the experience. And then what's also crazy is when you order it. So let's say I get a latte and it costs $7. If I had $6 in my account, I have to recharge it. But it defaults to recharging at $25. So they automatically get you. And so if you're moving fast, if you're at a red light and you press order, you just give in Starbucks another $25 for, they needed $1. Right. So anyway, so they want you to order online.
Oh, yes, they do. And what do they have? Like $1 billion or $2 billion in cash?
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Right. It's a huge moneymaker for them.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I don't know. I think if you're young, it's important to get in. I get it. Like, your mental health does matter. Everyone says it. The companies say it. I go to these universities. I remember we visited Duke and they talked about these kids and mental health. They take it seriously. I'm like, what do you mean they take it seriously? Like, you've gone through the application process, and I listen to these kids and they're triple majoring and they're traveling, and it's great. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's like, oh my God, they don't care. Like, they care and they don't care, right? If you care, you would truly do something about it, as opposed to, in order to get in a 5%, like, they're making you go through all this stuff. And these kids are so upset, and they've never had more kids ever apply to college. But anyway, that's down a path a little bit, but like, just engaging with other people, being around other people, you just don't know what you can learn, and you don't know who you can meet. And my daughter's been doing some stuff, as she's a senior in high school right now, and she's going around, and as she's gone to different places, she's meeting these random people. There's nothing to do with anything that she was going to be doing there. And then she would, oh, I went to your high school. Oh my God, you're going to that college? I know this person. And then all of a sudden she has all these different connection points. And the only reason she got there is because she was there. And she's seeing it.
And my guess is if she keeps that up, her career path could totally change. Like, she thinks she wants to do something, and then she winds up meeting somebody that gets her interested in something else. It's great. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, you have no idea. And I have to ask this, and I know I kept you long. Thinkorswim, like, you build something, you name it, you sell it, which is awesome, right? You wake up and then there's like money in your bank account. You're like, okay, what are we going to do next? I think you had to take some time off in between that. Like, okay, what are we going to rethink through? What's my next step? And where's the market going? Where's the world going? And then you look there, and like, I was at TD Ameritrade, and now that got transitioned to Schwab, right? And I have other accounts and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I know Thinkorswim, right? I've seen that. That's your baby. Like, you built it, like, you named it. I don't know if it's like this athlete and it was like your high school player, and then it went off to college and you don't really touch base with it anymore, but like, it's there. And like, I don't know, that necessarily wouldn't be it because it wasn't your baby, it'd be like your child, but you don't communicate with it. You see what I'm getting at? Like, to me, that's like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I refer to Thinkorswim as my baby. I don't interact with it anymore. I'm not on the platform anymore, but listen, Tom and I built it. So, I mean, with a lot of other people, but this was our idea. And we started the company, and it was amazing. And I did take 3 years off when I left. Tom actually came over and started the network. He started this before I came over and started the brokerage company. And it's a funny story because people would ask me when I'm going back to work. And I had at the time a standard answer, which was the day that I don't want to have lunch with my wife is the day I'm going back to work. And one day Tom called me and said, I got this idea, you got to promise you're going to come back and run it. And I'm like, great, I'm in. And we were in a car going to dinner, and she looked at me, she's like, what did you just agree to? And I told her, and she just looked at me, she's like, you don't want to have lunch with me anymore? I said, no, I love having lunch with you, but to do something which we did with Thinkorswim, it changed the industry. The way that I look at it, we definitely did not create online trading. It was there already. We changed it and we took it to a totally different level. To have the opportunity to do that again, I had to take the chance. And I just passed my 10 years Tasty, and it's been an amazing run, and we did it again. So it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
Who uses Tastytrade? Who's it for? Who's your audience?
Everybody. We are really open. We're expanding our range right now to bring in a lower demographic. Our primary demographic is 40, 50-year-olds, but we're bringing that down. We've dropped that into the 30s. And the reason we've done that is a couple things. One, we've expanded our stock offering, and it sounds funny to say that, but stock is super basic. Stock is, you're long, you're short. It's not a complicated product to trade. We're known for derivatives. So we're known for options, futures options, equity options. We're known for futures. So what we've done is we've just modified some of our offerings to try to attract a younger demographic with the thought that over time, they will build their bank accounts, they'll be able to build their stock portfolios, and they'll move from a stock trader to an options trader. So it's a big step for somebody to do it, but from a capital efficiency standpoint, options are significantly better than stock.
Got it. Are brokers like RIAs or whoever's trading, are they using your service as well, or is that not for those?
We do not currently have an RIA offering. So we got some hedge funds, but we are all self-directed. We don't do any prop trading and we don't have any advisors. Like somebody can't come to us and say, here's, X number of dollars. Could you manage for me? We don't do that. So there is something called an LTA, which is a limited trading authorization form. So we have a lot of those where somebody has a friend or a relative who is trading and says, look, I want to let them trade my account. Fine. That's just standard in the industry. But we do not currently have an RIA offering.
Your team of people then that you're hiring or that are on staff with you, what type of roles are they running? Are they doing the software? Are they like hard code? Like what specifically would they be doing?
So we have a huge dev team, which strictly focuses on all our applications. So we have web, mobile, downloadable software, iPad, and then we have the support side. So support side would trade desk support would be somebody answering phones and would answer any type of question related to your account, typically trading, but they could answer anything else. We have an accounts team that obviously is processing accounts. We have a banking team that's processing, ACHs, wires, account transfers. And we have a risk margins team. So the risk margins team is, to me, my desk. And again, I don't have a private office. I'm on the trade desk. I am right across from the person who runs our risk margins team, because to me, that's the most important role in the trading world. They need to make sure that they're protecting the customers and ultimately the firm, because we are responsible. If a customer were to go debit, we're responsible for the loss.
Got it. That's your world, right? That's what you grew up in Chicago on the board of, right? And doing all the trade. I mean, that was a different level of it, but.
Well, when I grew up, when I started on the floor of the CBOE in 86 and I left in 03. So, but trading on the floor as a floor trader is totally different experience.
Especially then, before the computers were taking over, right?
Yeah, correct. And now, because of how fast computers are, and because it's expensive to be on the floor, you have to either buy a seat or you rent a seat, and they would ebb and flow. But I mean, when I left in 03, I would say average monthly expenses were $10,000, $12,000, which is a lot. So you're paying 10, 12 grand before you can even, make a dime. And because, again, you could do everything you want, right? From your phone, from your computer and iPad, it doesn't make a difference. And, from a margin standpoint, everything's really close. The difference is cost of capital. If you're a professional trader, it's a bit less expensive. But to me, the worlds were totally apart, and now they've just come together. And listen, I'm glad we need professional traders. We still need people doing this because they're creating liquidity. But from a retail perspective, unbelievable the access that we now have as retail traders.
That's awesome. My last one is Tasty. Where is this name coming from?
So Tom is the genius on the marketing side. So he came up with Thinkorswim. And when he created that name, he told me, I said, I got to think about that one for a second. And I said, all right, I'm good. And then he tells a story. There was something, I don't know if you're from Charlotte, I think it is an East Coast thing, but Tasty Cakes was a product. And he loved it. And he just loved the name Tasty. So when he came out, actually the network used to be called Tastytrade. And then we, the brokerage firm, it was called Tastyworks. And then about 3-4 years ago, we switched it. We took Tastytrade. They went to Tastylive because it just made more sense that the brokerage firm is Tasty. But
yeah, I love it.
Just a name, a fun name. And as I said, when we started Thinkorswim, in 2000, people were like, what is that? What kind of a crazy name is that? But now names are just, people have fun with them, and hopefully it resonates with people.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's like something that you like, and it's an experience that only you could have or that he could have. And all of a sudden it's becomes this bigger thing. It becomes the next baby. So I think it's amazing. So Scott, how do people connect with you? Learn, obviously watch Tastylive on YouTube and learn about Tastytrade.
Yeah, you can go to tastylive.com. You can go to YouTube also, so you can watch it live, or you can watch, on YouTube. Tastytrade.com is the website address for the brokerage firm. And if somebody wants to reach out to me, I do answer my own emails. It's scott@tastytrade.com. Happy to answer any questions you have.
It's awesome. Scott, well, I appreciate it. I really enjoyed our wide-ranging conversations. Really cool.
It was fun.
Thanks for listening to Entrepreneur Perspectives. This show is produced by Quiet Loud Studios, where we create podcast writing and original media. Learn more at quietloudstudios.com.